y dos, y dos, una, y dos, una, y dos.
Hello and welcome to Cortes NYC Livestream, the podcast. This show broadcasts twice a week out of New York City. We are your hosts, Cortes NYC
and Carla de Puerto Rico.
And on the show, we talk about art, creativity, city life from a Latino perspective. I'm a visual artist.
And I'm a singer.
And this is episode 41, The Diaries.
As always, you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, and Spotify, and also on social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Tumblr.
And don't forget my online store. Go visit it, cortesnyc.bigcartel.com. There you can find original art, graffiti pins, stickers, posters for you guys to check out. And let's get on with the show. The Diaries. Carla.
Diarios.
So, sketchbooks and diaries, journals. When you're starting a new sketchbook, some tips, some ideas. I think sometimes when you get a new book, it's kind of intimidating to start it. I don't know if you ever started a scrapbook or a journal.
Scrapbooks, yeah.
Oh yeah, you started a scrapbook?
Long time ago. I haven't made a scrapbook in a long time.
Oh.
But yeah, starting a scrapbook is a little bit tough. Getting the first idea, what do you want it to be about, the theme behind it.
Yeah.
I also had a diary when I was younger. I had a diary and I used to write a lot. Like it was like an emotional, personal diary.
Like it was your psychologist?
And I remember, yeah.
Your therapy session.
Exactly.
Wow.
But yeah, I can imagine having just a book in front of you empty and you have to start filling it out with, you know, your art, your words. It has to be challenging.
When I did a little research, the opinions that I saw mostly were, if you have a new book, a new sketchbook,
Yeah.
Artists are usually intimidated by what are they going to start the book with, what's the first page is going to look like, because it's what people usually, when they open your sketchbook, it's the first thing they see. And I guess it's a little bit of that stage fright of like, what do I want people to see first in my book? It better be good enough.
Right.
You know, it's a little bit intimidating because usually, unless if it's a sketchbook, like a real raw book that you don't show anybody, because it's just a bunch of notes.
Yeah.
You know, that's fine. But if you're making a sketchbook, a black book, like in the graffiti world, you know, a black book where you are actually sharing this book with a lot of people, then the first pages or the inside covers become very important because it's the first thing people see. I think there's already a formula for black books for what the first pages in black books usually are. And I think it usually goes three ways. It could either be reserved for the actual owner of the book to do the inside covers and to do like amazing pieces on the inside covers, you know, fully rendered, really detailed, really amazing, really impressive pieces on the inside covers. Sometimes like if somebody's passing you his black book and he hasn't done the inside covers yet, he might tell you, yo, don't touch the inside covers or whatever, because he's got ideas already he wants to do there. He wants that for himself. Other times, black books, the inside covers are full of tags. The covers and the inside covers are full of tags, and then the pieces are more on the center of the book. I've seen that, and that's another way of doing it, where if you pass your book around, you let the outside pages and the inside covers be just wherever you could fit a tag.
Right.
Like everybody, that's your sign in. If I bump into you and oh, yo, what's up? Yo, sign my book, and you just sign on the inside cover.
Okay.
And then the other way that the inside covers go is stickers. I've seen people using the inside covers and the covers for stickers, like random stickers, things that they collect or stickers that
Whatever they find.
Yeah, whatever they find, you know, or sometimes like, because it's very popular now to do, it's always been popular, but more now to trade stickers in the sense of you get the blank mailing stickers and people take tags and they mail it to each other with their tag on it, and then you can collect them and put them in your black book. So it's a way of getting their signature into your book, even though they would never actually get to your physical book.
Right.
You'll at least have their actual signature in your book. So I've seen that, you know, they call them slaps, you know, just stickers that have tags on them. But that's another thing. So you'll find black books that also have that in the inside pages. Now, that's the graffiti world. In the world of actual, you know, just the more general public, they're sketchbooks, right? Some of the things I could imagine, these are some ideas that I could imagine could be good, and maybe they can translate into graffiti in the graffiti world. I think signatures. So we said tags, right, for the graffiti world. Well, I think signatures in general would be good for an intro to an artist's book.
Yeah.
If you're giving me your book and I open your book and the first thing I see is like the way that you sign, or maybe a few versions of your signature or something like that, or maybe like a really well done thick marker, or maybe a paintbrush, you know, version of your signature.
Yeah.
I think that could set a tone for your book. That would be a nice intro to who you are.
Yeah, exactly,
you know?
because you're basically introducing yourself and your art to another person.
To another person through your sketchbook. So why not let it be your signature?
Yeah.
You know? So that's a good suggestion for the inside covers or the first page of your.
I don't know if you have this on your list.
What?
But what about if it's in the graffiti world, where usually you give your black book to other artists, have all the artists that are inside the black book sign it in the inside pages, and that way it's like the presentation of the artists that are in this black.
That's a lot of that's very difficult to organize. You know, like, because sometimes, you know, the book gets passed around.
Yeah.
But if you can manage it where you actually hand it hand to hand with these instructions to people, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Take notes, guys.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, so there's people out there that really manage their black books very carefully, and that would be a good suggestion. Let only the artists that are featured inside your black book, let them have a part of the front to sign.
Yeah.
I mean, here's another suggestion. What if you divide up the inside covers, divide them up into portions, like squares, you know, into panels, like little squares or rectangles, and you assign each artist a rectangle.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
That
Like,
way it's not one on top of the other, but each one has
their
its
own little space. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, that's an idea. These are ideas. These are ideas we're throwing around. These are suggestions. If you guys are artists out there, whether you're graffiti artists or you're fine artists or you're illustrators or whatever, you know, if you have a book and you're starting a book, these are ideas for you to fill in your first pages. How do you start your book? What is the first thing you want people to see when they open your book? So the next one on my list is notes and quotes. And those things rhyme.
Yeah.
Unintentionally, but they do rhyme.
Yes.
Notes and quotes. I think it's interesting to open a book and find written stuff. I think that's interesting. Because I'm sure as I look through your book, I'm going to find art.
Exactly.
So it's kind of interesting that the first thing I would do is read when I see your book, that you're showing me something written. So a bunch of quotes would be really cool if you actually had quotes that mattered to you, or even your own quotes. But it could be quotes that you just like in general, you know. Notes are really good. I actually, some of my books, I have notes in the front. Sometimes the notes will be intentional art notes that are like really meant for you to read as the viewer. Other times, they're just notes of stuff that happened. Like, I'll just use the back of my book as like almost like a place to write, like a memo pad, like a place to write things. And you know, if you have a black book, let's say over a period of time, maybe 3 years, 4 years, that you're still using the same book, those notes are going to build up, and it's going to be interesting to see some of the things, you know, it's for yourself, especially to see some of these things that you came across along the years that you had to jot down, maybe a phone number, or maybe somebody's information, or maybe something about, you know, maybe a project you were working on and you had to write down some, you know, info about it, maybe what materials you had to buy, like maybe a shopping list of colors or something. Like, so that's interesting. And I feel comfortable doing that for my own books, like letting the back be an area of like memos and notes and things like that. But I think intentional notes are good too. If you have a theme to your book, and you're studying some specific theme for your book, it would be good to write down notes, related to what's going to be inside the book, and leave those things be in the front cover, and I think that's a good icebreaker. We're talking about what to start your book with as an icebreaker so that people can be introduced into your sketchbook.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of the first idea, signatures, and I like the second idea, notes and quotes, that kind of stuff. The next idea is something that I've done maybe a handful of times in sketchbooks, and I still think it's a good idea, which is making color swatches in the introduction to your book.
That's cool.
Making small boxes, whether they're boxes or circles or you just do it freehand, but making little swatches of color so that you kind of, it's almost like tuning your instrument. You're kind of like introducing people to like, what are the colors that you like to use? What are the colors that you have in mind?
Yeah.
What do you like? What are the colors that you like? And then you also, as the artist, you're kind of like cracking your knuckles and getting ready to get into some work. You're kind of like just at least breaking the ice by saying, I'm just going to lay down some color. Let me just lay down some color. Let me just, let me not let this book be pure white.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And sometimes you're intimidated to do a masterpiece right out the gate, because you might do this masterpiece and then the next page do something like no inspiration, and you're like, So it's a good way for you to just break that ice and say, okay, I'm going to lay down some artwork in the front. I'm going to do color. I'm just going to do swatches of color. Maybe experimenting with different mediums, like maybe do swatches of color in color pencil and then do swatches of color in marker, and then like that way you're kind of like reflecting and brainstorming what you can do with the mediums that you're going to be using inside your actual black book. Paint markers, in graffiti black books, you do a lot of silver, gold, or maybe multicolor paint markers. Maybe you just do swatches of those little squares of those colors, write down the names of the colors and that kind of thing.
That would be cool. That gives, well, first of all, because it is colorful, so it grabs the attention of the person that is looking at it. But it's like an interesting way also to write your words. It's basically like your notes. Yeah. Your words, but with colors and mediums. So
and then also, I mean, this goes back into the notes. If you're shopping for spray paint, maybe write down the colors that you're buying and do little swatches of the color. You know what I mean? To kind of like coincide with it.
Right.
That could be another way of also like, number one, memorizing the paint that you're using, so you can, when you go to buy it again, you know what color you used. But number two, to kind of introduce the viewer of your sketchbook to what are your tastes, what colors do you like.
Yeah.
All right, so along with the idea of doing the color swatches, there's something that I've done also. That's another thing that I've done in sketchbooks is let my first inner pages be my scrap paper. So what I mean by that is like I leave those pages blank, and I use them whenever I want to test a marker.
Oh, okay.
If I have an old marker, if I'm going to sit down and do something in the book, I'll test it out in the inner covers. I'll just like do some scribbles just to make sure that the marker works good, or what color is it if I want to test what color it is. And the same thing if I'm using ink or whatever, maybe I'll do some tests like scratchy marks just to kind of make sure that the pen is writing good and everything. I'll do those things, and it for some people it might be messy and they would never dream of doing that. I'm okay with that. I like that. I like the idea of letting my covers be my scrap paper, be my almost like my backyard of my house where I can just like dump stuff, and just let it be the place where, you're introduced to the hard work. When you come into my sketchbook, you're seeing the hard work, the day-to-day,
it's the process. It's like a diary.
Yeah, just me testing my materials out and all that. And you'll see that in the inside covers, and then you'll go into the masterpieces that I might want to get into and all that later, deep in the book. But I think that's another good way, of breaking the ice, demystifying your sketchbook, letting your sketchbook not be so holy, letting it be used already,
Exactly.
So we already talked about stickers. I think stickers are a good idea. Another idea along the lines of stickers is to use your inside covers almost like a scrapbook.
Okay.
I did that on some of my sketchbooks where I used my sketchbook. The theme of the book was traveling to different museums and drawing from observation in the different museums, and like just all the touring that I did, like whatever museums or places that I went to visit, I would sketch a little something in that book. And what I did is along the way, the tickets to the museums, the stickers that they give you at the museum, the maps to the museums, I'll cut out little pieces and glue those things into the inside cover in the front of the book.
That's cool.
And that it's almost like using your book almost like a passport.
Yeah, exactly.
You know how your passport gets stamped?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost using your sketchbook as a passport and you're stamping it. I think that's interesting because it tells the story of where you were. It makes your drawings more come to life and be more real as far as being memories, for yourself. You're going to remember these locations even more.
And it helps you to organize your sketchbooks. Know, okay, this one was from the time we went to museums.
Yeah, exactly.
This one was from the time we traveled to wherever. Because you can do the same if you travel to another country, maybe save little receipts or same tickets and put it on your scrapbook.
I mean,
sketchbook.
I'm going to say something probably blasphemous to some comic book collectors, but what if this is a shout out to Nova because I know Nova likes to do Marvel comics and that kind of stuff. But if you're a graffiti artist and you like to do superhero themes, right? Well, what if you use the inside pages of your book, of the intro of your book, and you cut out pieces of comics that you like? You know what I mean? If it's cut out panels from the different comics that you like and paste them into the intro, so that the intro is a scrap collection of all these different comic book clippings, and then you go into your black book pieces versions of those comic books.
That would be cool too.
You know what I mean? That way it's kind of like you're bringing that little piece of you, that introduction to your lifestyle, to what you like in the inside covers,
your inspiration, and then your work. Exactly.
So I mean, it could be done that way. I know a comic book collector would never want to tear apart their comics, but you could always photocopy it. Maybe photocopy your comics or something and cut them apart. And use that as your scrap pages in the beginning. All right, so I mean, that's another concept. Using the intro as a scrapbook, page. The next thing that I was gonna say is, and this is maybe a little more. Now we're getting a little more artistic, like your art. So if you're not afraid to start right off the gate. And to start right away into the inside covers, one good concept could be to do sketches only on your inside cover. Don't do any color. Don't do any finished pieces. Let your inside covers be a collection of different pencil sketches or different pen sketches only. And then let the rest of the book be full color renderings and all that stuff and blah, blah, blah. That way, when you open the book, you get a good understanding of your drawing style before you go deeper into finished pieces inside of your black book. If you're a graffiti artist, it could maybe be just do outlines only. Maybe your inside covers are strictly outlines. Only clean, perfect, really well done outlines, and maybe spend some time just laying out a few different outlines on the spread of the inside pages, on the front and the back cover, and then take some of those outlines and render them out inside your book.
I guess that works if you that works for you to have something to present for a professional environment, I feel.
That also, but I mean, black books are handed off to people, and you give an impression. But you're saying
if you want to, exactly, it can be a double use.
It can be a portfolio.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can use it kind of like a portfolio.
That could be a portfolio. I mean, sketchbooks are portfolios. Some people use them as presentation tools. Yes. But yeah, I mean, so let's say if you do characters, so just do sketches of characters
Yeah.
only in pencil or only in pen on the inside covers, and then inside your black book, deep into it, you can do fully rendered, full presentations of the characters, maybe the same characters, you know. Another idea that might be a little more fine artsy, maybe for people that really draw well, or maybe you don't have to draw that well, maybe it could be in your own style, but another good concept could be maybe a self-portrait on the inside cover, so that when people open your book, the first thing they see is a self-portrait. It can be an abstract, it doesn't have to be a realistic, perfectly done.
Yeah.
Some people don't like to do self-portraits, but that could be a good way to, number one, introduce people to your sketchbook, that it's your sketchbook. Number two, it's a good way for you to mark your time. What did you look like at that time, or what did you think you looked like at that time, that year of that sketchbook. I mean, I have sketchbooks from 20, 30 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I never thought I would have a book for that long in my possession. So, don't take it for granted that, sketchbook's going to last a long time. And over the years, let's say if you did a self-portrait every once in a while in a sketchbook, in the inside of it, those books become really a journal, a real
part
diary.
Of your history.
Exactly, part of your history, yeah. So I think a self-portrait is another good idea.
I mean, well, ideas like that, I feel like the one about signatures, having signatures, that one that I thought of, having the signatures of the people that are going to be inside the book. I like that.
You like that one?
I feel like if it's just like a diary, or maybe another type of sketchbook where you have notes or poems of stuff like that.
Poems are good. I've written poems in books, and not just myself, but also not my own things only, but also like lyrics of songs.
Yeah.
I'm not really listening to songs like that the way I used to when I was younger. Music's changed.
Yeah.
It's not as inspiring as it used to be.
Yeah.
Imagine writing lyrics to some of these rap songs.
I know. Yeah, that's actually true, because I also used to write down some lyrics and stuff like that, but of songs that I will listen to.
Yeah,
but now it's
nowadays,
not.
if you were to write down some of those lyrics,
it's
you
like,
look like
really?
a fool.
What? What are you writing about? No, but if you have, let's say, a sketchbook for that, I would say maybe your favorite poet can be on the inside page, the first pages, or maybe your inspiration, same things that we were talking about, but maybe referring to poems and poets, or music and lyrics.
I mean, nowadays I'm more motivated and inspired by movies. I think movies replaced music nowadays. I think people can binge watch Netflix all day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Netflix is the new radio.
True.
You put it on even if you're not watching.
Exactly.
It's on in the background. So maybe something like that. Maybe it's something related to your favorite TV shows or something, and maybe you're writing down notes or ideas from TV shows, and maybe it's something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what these young kids are doing nowadays. I don't know what these young kids are doing in their books nowadays.
Fortnite que se llama el juego.
Okay. Oh, Fortnite.
Fortnite.
Yeah. There you go. Make your book about Fortnite.
Yeah.
And put all your favorite Fortnite characters and their
and
gear.
The dances.
And the dances and the gear. Right? No, but so you guys out there, all you artists out there, if you have an old book. Oh, here's another piece of advice. If you have an old book that you haven't touched in a while, buy a new one. Maybe that book has lost its magic.
Yeah.
Maybe that magic will come back. But don't ever feel like, oh, I have a book already. And, books are organic things. They can be replaced. You can spend $15 or whatever it costs to get a new book and get a new inspiration. And that's worth the money, instead of keeping an old stale book that is not doing anything for you.
Yeah.
Getting a new book, starting clean, and maybe using some of these ideas that maybe we just talked about right now could be a good way to start a new inspiration or start a new project. If you, I've done that sometimes where when we were talking about doing the merchandise.
Yeah.
I put a book aside just for merchandise ideas, and in the beginning I held on to the book. The book is like 3 years old.
Wow.
And I held on to that book. I think it took me a year to finally get some real ideas in it.
Yeah.
Because that first year, I would maybe jot down some notes, some ideas, use it more like notes, and then that's it. And then maybe every once in a while, do a drawing in there just for the hell of it, and that's it. And then after 2 years is when I finally, ideas started flowing in that book, and the book started filling up quickly. But all along, I was doing stuff in other books, So I think if you're gonna take on a new challenge or a new project,
it helps you to organize.
It helps you to organize those ideas. So if you're out there, if you're an artist and you're gonna maybe start to do some new paintings, and you want to make sure that you can start collecting and building up that inspiration, buy a new book. Say this book is only for these paintings. That's what it's going to be about, and then maybe start it the way we're talking about. Start it with some signatures. Start it with some testing of the palette of colors, or maybe start it with a scrapbook concept and start gathering some of the reference and ideas that you want to use for your paintings, and let that book be only about that, and you're going to see the benefits of that. And if you're out there and you're doing fine, you got your books, you're fully inspired, you got no issues. maybe start a new book just for signatures. Maybe you got to do the opposite. Maybe start a book for the hell of it to collect up signatures from your friends and artists that you respect and that you admire, and little by little start building that one up. That could be something interesting too. But all right, guys, stay inspired, do your thing. Peace.
Estás haciendo todo igual, no tiene ningún color el paso que hace. Separa menos tiempo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Culture talk.
Yes, culture talk.
So what are we doing this culture talk, Carla?
We are going to be reviewing the movie The Motorcycle Diaries.
Hey, good motorcycle right there. Sounded clear. I like that. You really said it perfectly. The Motorcycle Diaries. Yes, that is true. All right, The Motorcycle Diaries is definitely a movie that I think a lot of people have heard of. I don't think it's that uncommon that people have heard of that movie. I guess maybe it's because of the title. It almost sounds like it always reminds me of the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. It's got a really catchy title, The Motorcycle Diaries. It already sounds like an adventure. It sounds like something that you'll remember. And obviously because of the subject of the movie, the main figure Che Guevara, being a popular icon, symbol
for
of
Latin America
and revolution, and even amongst hipsters and whatever.
Exactly. Now he's an icon for your clothing.
Exactly. But the Motorcycle Diaries movie, definitely something people have heard of. So, and it's also something that, because of that theme and all that, it's something that maybe the artist community, if you're an artist, you're probably gonna be into that movie.
Exactly.
It's gonna ring with you. So the movie, The Motorcycle Diaries, is from 2004. I can't believe it's that long already. 2004.
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel the age in the movie.
A little bit, but not because they're portraying even an older age.
Yeah.
It's like, it's okay.
Right.
Like you feel the time that they're trying to portray.
The movie's 126 minutes long. Did it feel like 126 minutes?
Yeah.
It did. It was long.
Yeah, it was long.
It was long. You could feel it. It's got some parts that are slow.
Yeah.
That you, if you're tired, watching in the middle of the night while drinking some whiskey, you might fall asleep. Not mentioning any names, but
not that happened.
But it's a sleeper. It's a slow-paced, drama. It's got some. We'll get into like different parts of it, but yeah, it's a slow-paced movie. It's a drama. It's a biography. It's an adventure, but it's not like an action. He didn't go through the Latin America shooting people, and it's not Che Guevara in action.
Exactly.
It's not a revolution.
It's more an observation and research.
Yeah. The cast is Gael Garcia
Bernal.
Yeah. And Rodrigo
de la Serna.
Yeah. They do a great job.
Yeah, they did. The way they play the characters, you can really see the personalities. Even the body language. There was this. Well, I guess we'll talk about that later. But the way they use their body to get to address these characters that were so known and are so known by all Latin Americans, it was awesome.
I think I liked, just speaking about the actors, first, these two guys, the main characters, they really captured the buddy movie.
Yeah.
You would really think that these guys were really friends, like lifelong friends.
Yeah.
Like they really interacted well. The writing was good because the things they said to each other was perfect. You know, a lot of subtle things, some things that went unsaid that were just by looks, that you can get this feeling of like, yeah, these people have history. These people know each other, and they're going through changes together. And
the accents too, because Gael Garcia Bernal, he's from Mexico. He was doing an Argentinian accent, and Rodrigo, he is Argentinian, but still the accents and the way the movie was written, when they pass from town to town
and from country to country,
you can really differentiate
the different places.
Accents.
Yeah, absolutely. They did a good job. The director, Walter Salles, Salles or Salles, 2 L's.
Maybe Salles. Yeah.
Salles. Sales. So Walter Salles, he did a great job. Let me see quickly what else he's done, but I think this movie is not just a good movie for acting, not just a good movie for the writing, but it's directed very well.
Yeah, because it starts in an adventure mode, and you're like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? These two guys are just gonna go in a motorcycle through all Latin America? What the hell? They're crazy. But then while they encountered challenges in the way, you see how the movie start to slow down. But it's because they're changing. Their personalities are changing, their point of view are changing. So I feel like all that worked out very well, that even though it was a little bit boring at some point, if you are alert and you're really watching the movie, you're gonna see that everything is for a reason.
Yeah.
Because when it slowed down, it's because they're really looking into themselves and looking into what they're experiencing on the way.
And the director, I think, did a great job. I don't know if it's the director or the cinematographer, but I think a combination of the two. It's always a combination of both. But the director did a great job in making it feel like a documentary in certain parts.
Yeah.
I feel like they actually used real people that they on location, that they found locally, to portray people in the past.
Yeah.
But because there are still people living that the way that they portray it now, they can capture some of that. They can get some of the more indigenous people, or more like the local native people that are still living kind of like in the past, like in a different time
and they're gonna
period,
look exactly the same
and
as
speak in the
if
same
it was
way. And they had
that
that awkward look at the camera, that usually people that aren't familiar with cameras, you know, they just kind of look at the camera and it's like a little off.
A very natural act, which lets you know that maybe they were not actors.
Yeah, that was really good. And I think the director made a good call, because another director, you give him the story of Che Guevara and he might make it a big blockbuster that has no sensibility. Yeah. But I guess because also it was based on a book, maybe that's another reason why
based on his book, on Che Guevara's
book. No, actually it's based on the other guy, his friend.
On the other guy.
Yeah, so the book is based on the friend's book.
On his memories.
Yeah. No, the director did, the only one that really stands out, I saw Dark Water. He did Dark Water as a garbage movie. It's a stupid horror movie. Paris Je t'aime. I don't know if you saw that. You ever seen that one, Paris Je t'aime? I saw that one. That was interesting. That was another interesting drama movie. But I think out of all the movies that I'm seeing here in his credits, this is the only one that really stands out for me, that I could say, and he's Brazilian, the guy, the director. Nice. Yeah, Walter Salles. All right, so let me read to you guys the the synopsis.
Yeah, read the synopsis.
If you guys want to read the synopsis for this, do not go to the IMDb. The IMDb has the entire plot with spoilers.
Spoilers.
It says it on the top, spoiler warning. But the synopsis is not a synopsis. It's the whole freaking movie, the whole plot. So if you don't want spoilers and if you want just a brief overlook, don't go to IMDb for this one. So I went to Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes has a good brief synopsis that I think eloquently describes the movie. In 1952, two young Argentines, Ernesto Guevara and Alberto Granado, set out on a road trip to discover the real Latin America. Ernesto is a 23-year-old medical student specializing in leprology, and Alberto is 29 and is a biochemist. The tale follows their journey as they unveil the rich and complex human and social typography of the Latin American continent. I think that last part really sums it up.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that. I'm going to keep this sentence in front of me while we talk, because I think there's a lot in that sentence that really describes the movie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just from this synopsis, 1952 is the time period.
Yeah.
Did you feel that it was 1952? I felt the time period.
Yeah, me too.
Right.
They did a good job. I don't know if they played also with the colors during the movie, but I felt like it wasn't.
They did.
Right?
They
it
did.
wasn't full color. It was like a sepia.
Sepia.
type.
No, it was warm tones. It was sepia. It was.
So it makes you feel as if it's even older.
Yeah.
But they did a good job with the outfits, with the how you call it, the props.
Yeah.
That they used.
The vehicles.
The locations.
The locations. Yeah.
The environments. The landscapes.
Yep.
Everything was very open, and what it was interesting is that, for example, if they're going to record at this time or 2004 when they recorded, you might see some buildings or houses that don't belong to the time, but they recorded in such a great location where everything was empty.
Yeah.
That it made you feel like, oh, it's really 1952.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, there was a lot of times when I was watching it that I was really thinking, if I go down to Bolivia or wherever they were, is it gonna look like that? And I was thinking, probably. I could probably find a building like that, or even that exact building, and it probably looks exactly the same way.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just a matter of realizing that these locations haven't changed, you know, and a good director, or maybe working with a good team, you can find these locations and make a really good movie like that.
Yeah.
So another point here from the synopsis: 23-year-old Che Guevara and 29-year-old Alberto. Did you get the feeling of their ages?
At the beginning I did, but then it changed.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say I've seen this movie 4 times, and I have never really paid attention to their ages. Sometimes I was thinking like he was supposed to be younger. Like is this guy like 18, 19?
Oh yeah.
Right? But then other times I get the impression of their age, and that the other guy, hit the friend Alberto, that he's older.
Yeah.
Like you get the impression he's the older, wiser guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, seeing it here that they're describing it as 23 and 29, I get it. So one of them is early 20s, just coming to that age, Che Guevara, and then the friend is reaching 30.
Yeah.
Which back then 30 was like 40, back in those days. 30 was like if you were 40 now or something.
Exactly.
A mature man. He's got his habits, he's got his vices, he's got his way of seeing the world.
Yeah.
And he's always trying to take the other guy, Che Guevara, under his wing.
Yeah.
And I think that goes into the story of how the friend from the beginning of the movie is a guy who's trying to take his little buddy under his wing, trying to mold him in his way. And along the way, as they go through his adventures, he realizes that his younger friend is never going to be like him, is never going to go under his wing. His friend is going to become whoever he's going to become with his new inspirations and political views and all that.
It's almost like an older brother.
An older brother who has to accept
the
coming of age of the younger brother. Yeah, it's like that. That's a good description.
Yeah. Another thing about Che Guevara is that he suffered of asthma.
Oh yeah.
So when he was having the attacks, Gael Garcia Bernal did a great job because I was feeling like, oh my God, he's really gonna die.
Yeah.
And it was really real. And I was thinking that somebody that actually suffers from asthma, it has to be very scary.
Yeah.
Because those attacks are so strong and you feel like you cannot breathe, and that's so desesperante.
Yeah. No, and the fact that he didn't have a respirator or anything, he just had a little
because
old
of the time,
fashioned.
exactly.
Yeah, in the 1950s, they didn't have real air pumps. So, medical respirators. So he had like some little squeezy bottle thing that he would just press and get a little wisp of air in his lungs. And you could tell it wasn't doing anything for him. It wasn't helping him at all. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
All right, so just not to make this long, what are the parts that you liked? What stood out for you from the movie?
I liked the first. I liked parts throughout the movie. So I like when they got to Chile and they started to talk to people in Chile, when they actually use, and this was Che idea, when they went to the newspaper to say, oh, we have a story to share.
Oh, yeah.
So then they can use the newspaper. And it was really interesting coming from a communication standpoint to see that back on that time, social media was the newspaper.
Yeah.
And if you were a celebrity in the newspaper, so even if your name and your photo was in the newspaper, you can tell everybody there, oh, look, but my story is a newspaper. And everybody thinks that you're an important person.
Yeah. They used it as credibility to be able to try to get free things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's really smart.
Yeah.
And I didn't catch that the first time I'd watch it.
Yeah.
And now I was like, oh yeah, of course, because newspapers, it was the first form of communication.
Yeah.
And then the other part I liked when they went to Peru, and it was like this whole realization of what Latin America is and what indigenous people did for the future of Latin America.
Right.
That was also a touching part.
Yeah. That I think that's the heart of the movie, and the turning point of the movie is him, the main character, the Che Guevara character, as a young person of privilege, because he comes from an educated background, and he comes from a big city,
Mm-hmm.
and he's on this like getaway kind of trip,
Mm-hmm.
trying to find himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he meets people that are traveling, that are workers, that are
that
migrant
part.
workers, and they're asking him like, why are you traveling? Like they were saying that they're traveling to find work, and then they look at him and they go, why are you traveling? And he was like, to travel.
Just because?
Yeah, he says to travel, and left it kind of like, whoa, I'm really, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But obviously that becomes his work.
Yeah.
His life work.
Yeah.
So he was traveling for work, but a different kind of
Exactly.
travel, an inspirational travel to find work. But I think that was interesting. And then also the leper colony.
Yeah.
When he goes to a leper colony, a lot of, man, I wish like we could talk for hours about this, but I don't want to bore people. But like, there's a lot of interesting perspectives on how religion, is in Latin America, taboos, and how these young people, the Che Guevara and the friend, how they had this new modern way of seeing things through science.
Yeah.
And they were like not gonna succumb to, the old ways of seeing things. They wanted to challenge the old ways, and it's revolutionary.
Yeah.
That's where the revolutionary concept comes from, is like in his life. I liked a lot of the socializing that they showed, the dancing, the music.
Yeah, I like that too.
I don't know, it made me feel relaxed. Like,
yeah,
it made me wish that I could be there. It made me nostalgic, right? They even have a line like that in the movie. They say, how can you be nostalgic about something that you've never seen? It almost, and it makes you, this movie makes you nostalgic for something you never experienced.
Yeah, I think it's the way that they made the connections between these two characters and everybody that they were meeting through their trip.
All right, so what other parts stand out for you?
So there was this one part when they're celebrating the Che Guevara's birthday, and in the leopards colony they have it divided. So the priest and the people that are treating the sick people, they have it on one side, and then the leopards, the patients, they have it on another side.
And they're divided by a river.
And they're divided by a river. And El Che, he wants to go to the side where the leopards are because he wants to celebrate with them. But he's looking for the boat, and the boat is not there. So he said, oh, it doesn't matter, I'm gonna swim. And the division and the river is a pretty long distance.
Yeah, it's a river. It's a wide river. Nobody swims across rivers.
Yeah. So he starts swimming, and it's a very interesting scene because from one side they start screaming like, what are you doing, come back. From the other side, the leopards are telling him, you can do it, you can you can complete it, you can do it. And he gets to the other side, and when he gets out of the water, we were talking about this, it was kind of like a baptism. It was kind of like the representation of a rebirth for him.
Yeah.
As a person, as a doctor, as just as Latin American. He was kind of like when he finally realized, okay, this is what I'm gonna become.
That's a key scene for the whole movie. First of all, he's asthmatic.
Yeah.
Second of all, he doesn't swim well.
Yeah.
They represented that earlier. They showed it earlier that he has a hard time with water, and that the waters are cold and whatever, and that his body's just not, he's not a healthy person that way. So him taking the chance to swim across that river was a big deal. Everybody was assuming he was going to die. It was at night, and it was the night before they were going to leave.
Exactly.
And he had already established a relationship with the people, the lepers.
Yeah.
You know, where he felt this real desire to want to share with them before he left, and he had to actually go against the norms, the social norms of the people that he was actually celebrating his birthday with, to leave them behind and then go do this thing just to go across as a symbolic thing to the lepers, and from his heart as well. And I think those elements are the elements that make it like not just a guy swimming across water for the physical part of it, but also the emotional element of it, the character change of it, and the fact that the people from his social circle were saying, are you crazy, you're gonna die, and the people from the leper side are saying, you can do it, and they're the ones supporting him. And that symbolicness of like the symbolism of that they're the ones that are driving him forward to become the person he should be, while the other side are telling him, you can't do this, you can't do that, you'll never be able to do that. And it illustrates very clearly the division of those social circles, and how he saw that as being different. Before he took that swim at his birthday party, you know, that just a couple of minutes before he's at the birthday party, he makes a big speech where he made he always, throughout the whole movie, he always is too honest.
Yeah.
Right?
Too much.
But he makes a speech where he says thank you to everybody for the celebration and for the birthday and all that. Thank you everybody for the good wishes. Thank you everybody for the medicine, his medical know-how and the time there and all that. But then he makes a whole statement about we should all be a united Latin America. Yeah. That we are a mixed race. That was key. He makes a big statement about very formal speech, you know, at a birthday party. Yeah. He makes a very formal speech about how, you know, all of Latin America, that he's realized that, and he makes a proclamation that all of Latin America, we're all one race, and that we're all the Latin American race, and that countries shouldn't be divided. Yeah. That we shouldn't be divided by borders. Yeah. And I think that's him crossing that water is crossing a border and proving his theory right, like putting action to words. He had just finished making that statement, and then he went ahead and wanted to prove it, that he could do it. And I think that's interesting because if anybody knows about Che Guevara, he's Argentinian, in his time learned and traveled through Latin America, all the different countries, and then he ended up in Cuba, a whole different country. Yeah. Joining a revolution in Cuba. So I mean, he really lived the experience of we're not just doing something for Cuba, but doing something for all of Latin America. And I think the original plan, from what I understand, is that the revolution in Cuba was supposed to be the first of many revolutions.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be the concept that all of Latin America would expel all these outside forces.
Reading from him online, it was saying that after Cuba, he was going to other countries in South America, Latin America, like Bolivia, and he was going to help there, but the organization wasn't there from the people from Bolivia,
right,
to really fight and make the revolution happen.
And you were telling me that Fidel Castro and Che Guevara met in Mexico. Yeah, because El Che, then I think he traveled to Mexico, and over there he's meeting with like different people that are that they want to create a revolution, right,
and they want something different. And that's when he meets with the Castro brothers. So
I think that's in this movie they illustrate that very clearly, this sense of like him discovering his politics, his social politics, before he even discovered any governmental politics.
Yeah.
Just understanding his social politics, what he feels about these farmers and these indigenous people and the poor people and the people that are oppressed and the people that are shunned out of society. And what does he feel about upper society that he comes from? How does he feel about them? I think that's even about revolution. He makes a statement in the movie where he says his friend is telling him, listen, I got a great idea. We're going to go to one of these indigenous towns. I'm going to marry a local girl, and we're going to have babies, and we're going to have a lot of babies, and we're going to create a revolution. That's revolution, right? We'll breed them out. We're going to make a new empire, Inca empire. Yeah. And then Che looks at him and says, a revolution without a single shot? No, that's ridiculous. What are you talking about? Even though they're both being ridiculous, but Che Guevara obviously is thinking, he's really serious about it. He's serious. A revolution comes with bloodshed. A revolution comes with fighting. Comes with weapons. It doesn't come from just breeding people out or anything like that. I think one last thing that I want to say is their trip through Machu Picchu was really inspiring. Yeah. I think the road trip, them walking all the way up there, it's like the movie stopped for a minute when they got to Machu Picchu. Like everything mellowed down, everything stopped. Yeah. And it reminds me of when you take a trip and you get to that one point in your trip when you're tired, you finally got to a certain point where you could kind of rest, but it's a place that you finally realize you can look back at everything you traveled, right, and reflect. Right. And I think anybody who's had a road trip or who's taken a long trip can identify with things in this movie. Yeah, definitely. It's all about traveling, about discovering yourself. So recommend it? Yes. I highly recommend it. You guys go watch this movie, Motorcycle Diaries. I hope we didn't spoil too much. Open your mind. There's a lot that we didn't talk about, so yeah.
You wanted me to teach you, right? This is street reality.
Hablando español, Carla.
Okay, yes, hablando español.
What are we going to talk about?
How do you say diaries?
Diaries in español is diarios. Yes. Is there a word for journals or is it the same?
It's the same.
Okay. So diaries, diarios.
How do you say cover page?
Cover page.
Yes, cover page.
See, I was going to say cover page. Cover page or the cover of the book?
Cover page. Because it's the same thing.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. All right. The cover of a book, it would be... I feel like I've said carátula in the past, but I don't think that's right.
No, that's more like for a CD or something.
Cover like for a CD is a carátula? So el forro. No. El forro is the cover. No. Yeah, forro is cover.
Forro is like if you're trying to protect the book. That's what you put
like a book
on
sleeve?
top.
Is a forro? A book sleeve. Okay, so what's a cover page? Or cover of the book?
Portada.
Portada.
La portada del libro.
Okay, portada.
Or la portada, la primera página.
Okay, portada.
How do you say notes?
Notes. I'm guessing it's not notajes.
No, it's not.
Notes. Notes is shit, I don't know.
No?
It slipped my mind. No.
Notas.
Notas, notes?
Yeah.
Notas.
Yeah.
Como te voy a,
Tomando nota.
te voy a dejar una nota. But nota can also be music notes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. How do you say portrait?
Portrait. You mean portrait?
Portrait.
Oh, portrait.
How do you say portrait?
Portrait, retrato?
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
I almost said potrates.
Or almost said what?
I almost made up another word.
Oh
no,
my
retrato,
God.
retrato. Portrait is retrato.
Yes. How do you say suggestion?
To suggest is sugestra? No, sugistra.
No.
Okay, all right.
Suggest is sugerir.
Sugerir.
So suggestion is sugerencia.
Sugerencia, suggestion. Sugerencia, and to suggest is sugerir. All right, got it.
How do you say quotes?
Quotes. It's not quotas, is it?
No. Quotas is when you have to pay your quote.
Your quota.
Your quota.
Yeah, it's a quota. Okay.
But what is quotes?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Quotes? No.
It's citas.
Citas.
Yeah.
The little quote marks
Yeah.
are citas?
Yeah.
I've never used that.
Citas, like cuando estás citando a alguien.
Oh, citation.
Maybe in your
like
work,
a citing.
like citation.
Like
yeah.
citing.
Like citing.
Citas.
But when you're talking about also quotes, it's like la cita de esta persona.
Very cool.
blah, blah.
All right, I learned something right there. Citas.
Okay. And then that's all I got.
That's
Do
all
you
you
have
got?
any?
Yeah. How do you say river in Spanish?
Río.
Rio. All right. How do you say colony in Spanish?
I think we said this one all the time, but okay. Colonia.
Oh, very good. How do you say motorcycle in Spanish? Here we go.
Bueno, en Puerto Rico.
All right, first, how do you say it correctly? How do you say motorcycle in Spanish?
Motocicleta.
Motocicleta is a dictionary version.
Yeah.
Motocicleta.
Pero en Puerto Rico le decimos motora.
What?
Motora.
Motora, engine.
No, motora.
Motora, engine.
No, y porque engine es motor.
Oh, so female engine.
Exactly.
Motora. Okay.
Motora.
Uh-huh.
Y en República Dominicana a los taxistas que usan motorcycle le dicen motoconcho.
Motoconcho.
Móntate en un motoconcho, vete con un motoconcho.
Motoconcho.
Así es.
Ah, okay. En Colombia le decimos moto.
Ah, pues.
La motocicleta o la
moto.
Móntate en la móntate.
Ya mi moto.
So Puerto Rican say it too, huh?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I don't know where you get that other motora.
Decimos motora también.
All right. All right. Another episode wrapped up.
Yes.
Next episode is going to be episode 42. And it is all about bilingualism.
Yes.
Speaking Spanish.
Yes. Speak Spanish or another language.
Or another language. And in art life, I want to talk about French and Italian terms that are art terms that we probably know, and you don't even realize that you're speaking a foreign language when you're using these terms, but it's terms that every artist should know.
Interesting.
What about you?
On Cultural Talk, we're going to be talking about the benefits of being bilingual and the different types of bilinguals they exist.
Right. Because you learn to be bilingual in different ways.
Yeah.
True.
Definitely.
And then at the end?
Vamos a hablar español. You're going to become bilingual.
All right. Talk to you guys then.